Hi everyone, welcome back to Isabella's Bedtime before you drift off. Let me know in the comments where you're listening from. If you're enjoying the stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. Now let's relax and jump into tonight's story. Picture a tiny village by the sea, where the waves crash softly against jagged cliffs and the air smells of salt and secrets. This is Gray Cove, a place so small you'd miss it if you blinked, tucked away where the coastline curves into shadow. At night, when the fog rolls in thick and heavy, the villagers light lanterns, old rusty ones that glow faintly orange, and hang them along the shore, swaying in the wind like eyes watching the water. They say it's tradition, a way to guide lost fishermen home. But there's a whisper, a rumor that drifts through the village like the tide, that those lanterns aren't for the living at all. What if I told you the government sealed records about this place decades ago, claiming it was just a fishing town, nothing more, while hiding something darker beneath the surface? Tonight, as you settle into your bed, let the sound of distant waves carry you to Gray Cove, where the lanterns burn low and the truth waits in the mist. This is a story of something forgotten, something watching, and it begins with a woman named Clara, who came to the village seeking a peace and found a mystery she couldn't escape. Clara arrived in Gray Cove on a rainy afternoon, her car rattling down a dirt road that seemed to vanish into the fog. Her only company, the soft patter of drops against the windshield. She was tired. Tired of the city, tired of noise, tired of questions with no answers. And when she saw the ad for a cheap cottage by the sea, she packed a bag and left without looking back. The village was quieter than she'd imagined. Its streets narrow and lined with weathered houses, their paint peeling like skin under the constant damp. No one greeted her, no one waved, just a few faces peering from windows before curtains snapped shut, leaving her alone with the sound of the ocean breathing nearby. The cottage was small, perched on a hill overlooking the shore, and as Clara unpacked, she noticed the lanterns for the first time, dozens of them, flickering along the beach in the growing dusk, their light barely cutting through the haze. She thought it was charming at first, a quaint little custom, but that night, as she lay in bed, she heard something, a low hum, almost like voices, rising from the shore where the lanterns glowed. The next morning, Clara walked down to the village, her boots crunching on wet gravel, hoping to meet someone, anyone, who could tell her about this place she'd stumbled into. The only shop was a cramped general store, its shelves stocked with canned goods and fishing gear, run by an old man named Tom, who barely looked up from his newspaper when she entered. She asked about the lanterns, keeping her tone light, but Tom's hands stiffened, his eyes flicking to the window before he muttered something about tradition and went back to his reading. Clara pressed him, curiosity tugging at her, and finally he sighed, setting the paper down with a rustle that seemed too loud in the stillness. He told her the lanterns had been there forever, lit every night to keep the sea calm, but his voice dipped low when he added, "Don't go near them after dark, miss. They're not for us." She laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Tom's face stayed hard, and as she left, she felt his gaze on her back, heavy and cold. That night, the hum returned, louder now, weaving through her dreams like a thread she couldn't pull free. Days passed, and Clara settled into a routine. Mornings sipping tea on a cottage porch, afternoons wandering the cliffs, evenings watching the lanterns flicker to life as the sun sank into the waves. But the hum never left, growing clearer each night until she could almost make out words, soft, pleading whispers that seemed to come from the water itself. She started noticing things, too. Footprints in the sand that led to the lanterns but never away. Shadows that moved when the wind was still. A fishing boat that drifted offshore every night but never came in. One evening, restless and unable to sleep, she grabbed a flashlight and crept down to the shore, the fog wrapping around her like a blanket, muffling her steps. The lanterns swayed gently, their light casting pools of orange on the wet sand, and as she got closer, the hum sharpened into voices, dozens of them overlapping, calling out names she didn't know. Her heart beat faster, but she kept going, drawn by a pull she couldn't explain, until she stood beneath one of the lanterns, its rusty frame creaking above her. Up close, the lantern was old, older than the village itself, its glass cracked and streaked with salt, but the flame inside burned steady, unnaturally bright for something so small. Clara reached out, her fingers brushing the metal, and the voices stopped. Silence fell so suddenly it made her ears ring, her breath catching in her throat. Then from the water she heard a splash, faint but deliberate, and she turned, her flashlight sweeping over the waves. Something was there, just beyond the light, a shape, tall and thin, rising from the sea, its edges blurred by the fog. It didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching her. And Clara felt a chill crawl up her spine, slow and heavy, like ice melting into her bones. She stumbled back, the lantern swinging above her, and the voices returned, louder now, urgent, chanting something she couldn't understand. Panic clawed at her, but her legs wouldn't move, rooted to the sand as the shape in the water tilted its head, its gaze piercing through the mist. Then, as quickly as it had come, it sank back into the waves, leaving only ripples and silence behind. Clara ran back to the cottage, her flashlight shaking in her hand, her breath ragged as she locked the door and sank to the floor, the hum fading into the night. She didn't sleep, couldn't, not with the memory of that shape burned into her mind, not with the question spinning through her head. The next day she went back to Tom, her voice trembling as she told him what she'd seen, begging for answers. He didn't look surprised, just tired, and after a long pause, he leaned close and whispered a story the village kept buried, a tale of a ship that sank off the coast a century ago, a government vessel carrying something secret, something alive, that escaped into the water when the hull split open. The lanterns, he said, weren't to guide anyone home. They were to keep it out there, to stop it from coming ashore. Clara stared at him, her mouth dry, and asked why no one warned her, why they let her stay. Tom shrugged, his eyes dark. "Some things you have to see for yourself," he said, and turned away. That night, Clara watched from her window as the lanterns lit up again, their glow steady against the fog, the hum rising once more, softer now, almost soothing. She didn't go back to the shore, didn't dare, but she couldn't leave Gray Cove either, not yet. The village held her, its secrets wrapping around her like the tide, pulling her deeper into its quiet embrace. She lay down, the voices lulling her toward sleep, and as her eyes closed, she wondered if the shape was still out there, waiting, watching the lanterns burn. The government might have erased the ship from history, might have silenced the truth, but Gray Cove remembered, and so did the sea, Its whispers a lullaby for those who listen too long. As you rest now, let the waves of Gray Cove fade from your mind, their rhythm slowing your breath, their secrets sinking back into the dark. The lanterns glow far away, their light too faint to reach you, their voices too soft to follow. Feel your body relax, your thoughts drift as the story slips away, leaving only peace in its wake. Sleep calls, gentle and deep, and the next tale waits patiently for when you're ready. Imagine a narrow road winding through a mountain range where the trees grow tall and twisted, their branches clawing at the sky like hands reaching for something lost. At the end of that road sits Hollow Peak Inn, a crumbling building of stone and wood, its windows dark and its roof sagging under years of snow and silence. They say it was built long ago before anyone can remember, a resting place for travelers caught in storms. But now it stands alone, forgotten by all except those who stumble upon it by chance. There's a story whispered in the valleys below, a tale of guests who checked in and never left, their names scratched into an old guest book that still sits on the counter waiting. What if I told you that book holds more than just names, that it's a record of something older, something tied to the mountain itself, watching through the shadows? Tonight, as you sink into your pillow, let the wind outside the inn carry you there, where the air grows cold and the past never truly sleeps. This is a story of curiosity and quiet dread, and it starts with a man named Owen, who found Hollow Peak when he needed it most, and learned too late what it wanted from him. Owen was driving through the mountains one winter night, his truck rattling over icy roads, the heater barely keeping the chill at bay, when a storm rolled in fast and fierce, turning the world white. He hadn't planned to stop. His map showed nothing but forest for miles. Owen signed his name in the book, his hand shaking from the cold, and took a key from a row of hooks behind the counter, figuring he'd rest until the storm passed, telling himself someone would show up soon. The room upstairs was small, with a sagging bed and a window that rattled in its frame, the snow piling up outside in soft, endless waves. He lay down, the mattress creaking under his weight, and tried to sleep, but the quiet was too deep, too thick, broken only by a faint scratching sound, like nails on wood, coming from somewhere below. He sat up, listening, his breath fogging in the dim light, and the sound grew sharper, rhythmic, as if something was writing, carving, marking time in the stillness. Owen told himself it was the wind, the old building settling, but his heart beat faster, and when he looked out the window, he saw nothing but snow, no tracks, no lights, just the endless white stretching into the dark. He pulled the blanket tighter, the scratching fading as his eyes grew heavy, and sleep took him slowly, pulling him under like a tide he couldn't fight. When Owen woke, the storm had stopped, the sky outside a pale gray, but the air in the room felt different, colder, heavier, as if something had shifted while he slept. He dressed quickly, eager to leave, and headed downstairs, his boots thumping on the worn steps, the silence following him like a shadow. The guest book was still there, open on the counter, but when he glanced at it, his name wasn't alone anymore. Beneath it were others, written in shaky, unfamiliar handwriting, names he didn't recognize, dated years, decades, even centuries back. His stomach twisted, a slow knot of unease tightening as he flipped through the pages, finding more names, hundreds of them, stretching far beyond what the book should have held. The scratching started again, louder now, coming from the walls, the floor, the ceiling surrounding him, and Owen stepped back, his breath catching as he noticed something else. The ink on his own name was smudged, wet, as if it had just been written. He grabbed his keys, his pulse racing, and turned to leave, but the door wouldn't budge, the handle cold and unyielding under his grip. Owen pounded on the door, his shout swallowed by the thick walls, the scratching growing frantic, a chorus of unseen hands clawing at the end from every side. He ran to the window, smashing his fist against the glass, but it didn't crack, didn't even shiver, just reflected his wide eyes back at him, trapped in the pale light. The lamp on the counter flickered, casting long shadows that stretched and twisted, and when he turned, he saw it. A figure in the corner, tall and thin, its face hidden in the dark, standing still as stone. It didn't move, didn't speak, just watched him, its presence filling the room with a weight that made his knees weak. Owen stumbled back, his voice hoarse as he begged it to let him go, but the figure only tilted its head, and the scratching stopped, replaced by a low hum, soft and steady, like a lullaby woven into the air. His panic faded, his limbs growing heavy, and he sank to the floor, the hum wrapping around him, pulling him down into a sleep he couldn't resist. The last thing he saw was the guest book, its pages turning on their own, his name sinking deeper into the list. Hours later, or maybe days, time blurred in Hollow Peak. The inn was silent again, the snow outside untouched, the lamp burning low as ever. Owen's truck sat in the lot, buried under fresh powder, its engine cold, its driver gone, though his name remained in the book, a fresh mark among the countless others. The figure was gone too, melted back into the shadows, waiting for the next guest to find the inn, to sign their name and join the mountain's quiet collection. They say Hollow Peak was built over something ancient, a myth older than the trees, a presence that feeds on those who stay too long, keeping them forever in its walls. The government might have known once, might have sent men to investigate, but their records are lost, their names scratched into the same book, hidden where no one looks. The inn waits still, its light flickering through the storm, calling to those who wander too far. As you lie there now, let the wind of Hollow Peak fade from your ears, its hum slipping away into the night, leaving only the quiet of your room. The inn is far off, lost in the mountains, its guest book closed until the next traveler comes. Feel your breath slow, your body sink, as the story drifts out of reach, its shadows softening into calm. Sleep creeps in, gentle and deep, and the next tale lingers just beyond, ready when you are.